Objeto voador não identificado surge sobre uma base secreta norte-americana equipada com mísseis nucleares. Esse objeto desativa 10 ogivas nucleares. Vem comigo que hoje eu vou falar com o protagonista desse incrível caso ufológico. Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, boa madrugada, onde você estiver. Eu sou THIAGO. Sejam bem-vindos ao canal Desvendando Mistérios. Olá pessoal, e o meu entrevistado de hoje é especialíssimo. Coronel Robert Salas, ex-militar norte-americano que foi protagonista de um dos mais incríveis casos ufológicos já registrados. Um OVNI simplesmente desativou 10 ogivas nucleares de uma base militar secreta norte-americana. Os OVNIs estavam escondidos sob a terra. Vem comigo que essa entrevista é marcante e histórica. Não se esqueça, pessoal, também de se inscrever no canal e marcar o sininho para sempre que tiver vídeo novo, você ser avisado. Ou você gostaria de perder uma entrevista histórica como essa do Coronel Salas, que vai revelar detalhes que ele nunca revelou antes. Não deixe também de dar um like nas centenas de vídeos do canal. E eu quero saber, claro, a sua opinião. Então comente. Comente este vídeo, comente todos os vídeos do canal e compartilhe este vídeo e o canal para que a gente consiga alcançar cada vez mais pessoas. Robert Salas formou-se em 1964 pela Academia da Força Aérea dos Estados Unidos. Ele serviu 7 anos na ativa, trabalhou como controlador de armas, comandou mísseis balísticos intercontinentais como oficial de lançamento e também como engenheiro de propulsão de mísseis da Força Aérea no programa Titan III. De 1971 a 1973, ele trabalhou como engenheiro de segurança e confiabilidade para a Martin Marietta Aerospace e a Rockwell International em propostas de projetos de ônibus espaciais. De 1974 até a sua aposentadoria, em 1995, trabalhou para a Administração Federal da Aviação. Em 2005, ele publicou o livro Faded Giant, com o coautor James Klotz, que detalha o incidente que ele testemunhou em 1967. Coronel Salas tem palestrado mundialmente sobre este incidente e detalha o que vivenciou naquela noite. Hello, Captain. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation. And the Brazilian audience know you since a long time ago, but they will love this interview because I read 2 of your books, and I'm pretty sure that there are information that you're gonna tell us for the first time.
Well, hello, THIAGO. It's very nice to be with you. I thoroughly enjoyed visiting Brazil. I think I visited at least 3 times, as I can recall. And each time was spectacular. I love the country. I love your country. And I'm sure we'll have a good conversation today.
Yeah, we were together at the Senate in Brazil in 2021-22 with AJ Javar that left us last year. But your speech in a Brazilian Senate was amazing. A very good reputation, very good information that you brought for us. Well, Captain, I'm going to start with the main experience that you had. In 1967, you were the protagonist of one of the main and most incredible ufological cases of all time. I'd like you to report to our audience what happened at Malmstrom Air Force Base, please.
Yes, Malmstrom Air Force Base is located near Great Falls, Montana, which is about the middle of the state of Montana. At that time in 1967, we had about 15 what we call launch control centers, each controlling 10 nuclear missiles. These were intercontinental ballistic missiles, nuclear tipped, of course. And on March 24th, 1967, I was in charge of a flight of missiles at approximately 100 miles to the east of Great Falls, Montana. Part of a two-man crew. I was the deputy commander, and my commander was Colonel Fred Mywald, now deceased. But we were located underground, about 60 feet underground, and had all the controls there. Would have launched 10 nuclear missiles if given the order, and of course that would have caused tremendous, horrible World War III, basically. But on this evening, I was in charge while my commander was taking a break. We had a little cot down there for rest. And I get a call from my topside guard. We had 6 guards upstairs. We were locked in for 24 hours. We couldn't just walk up or go up at will. So sometime in the evening, I get a call and he says, "Sir, we've been seeing strange lights flying very fast, stopping in midair, reversing course, making 90-degree turns." And he said they weren't airplanes. He couldn't hear any engine noise, and they didn't behave like aircraft. They were simply lights above him and other guards that had also seen them. He wanted me to just to inform me of the situation. I was polite, but I didn't quite understand what was going on or why he even reported it. Strange lights in the sky. I even said, "You mean like UFOs?" And because we had reports in the city newspapers of people seeing objects like this in the sky. I laughed at it basically, and thanked him and terminated the call. 5 minutes later, he calls back. This time, he's screaming into the phone. He's very upset. He's yelling. I can't hardly understand what he's saying. And finally, he says there's an orange-red pulsating light. It's very large, about 40 to 50 feet long, and it's pulsating, and it's just sitting outside the front gate. I wanted me to tell him what to do, and I said, make sure nothing comes inside the fenced area. This time, I took him very seriously because he was very frightened. He had all the guards out with their weapons, and he was very scared. So then he hung up the phone, and I went to tell my commander about the lights and the phone calls, and all of a sudden, our missiles started shutting down, one at a time. Very quickly, within seconds, all 10 of our nuclear missiles were disabled. We had a way of checking each missile failure, and they were all reading the same thing. It was guidance and control system failure. So we lost all 10 missiles while this object was still above us. He reported to command post. I saw that there were 2 other flights of missiles where there were incursions, meaning we had indications that something or someone had tried to enter where the missiles were located. The missiles were about a mile or two away from our location. And so we set guards out there, and again, they reported back seeing these objects hovering above the missile sites. So, and then my commander turns to me and says the same thing happened at another flight of missiles. So I thought it was that evening, but it turned out to be 8 days earlier. And that was what we call the Echo flight incident. I was at Oscar flight. So within the span of 8 days, 20 nuclear missiles were disabled during reports of UFOs overhead.
That's what's amazing. Just to make a question before we continue about this incident. Before this case, what was your opinion about the UFOs?
I dismissed the subject because, of course, I'd never had any experience, and it was simply individuals reporting lights in the sky. There was no official reporting, even though there had been other sightings of UFOs by security guards in the weeks prior to my incident. And certainly we hadn't heard about the Echo flight incident, which happened, like I said, 8 days earlier on March 16th. So I had no reason to give this any credibility until that evening. And then after that evening, of course, I was very interested and curious as to what this was.
And is there any chance, even remote chance, that the shutdown of the missiles was due to a mechanical failure?
We had never. I had been on duty at Malmstrom Air Force Base for 3 years before I left. I had never had any incident where we lost more than one due to any sort of failure, much less 10 within seconds of each other. So, but at any rate, if it had been a mechanical failure type of incident, it would have been discussed among the crews, because we had briefings each time we went on alert, which was about every 3 days. We would have briefings of any sort of problems with the missiles or the systems, and we never had any briefing or any indication that this could have been a mechanical failure of any sort that was known.
Well, I think that we were close to outbreak the Third World War if the missiles were fired, right? And
Yes.
what do you feel? Do you think that you were most, I don't know, surprised about the missile was shut down, or terrified about, well, now it's not under our control, everything could happen? What's our feeling in that moment?
Well, it was very unusual feeling. Like I said, I had no indication that anything like this could happen from some object, some strange object coming from somewhere. At the time it happened, I thought we were under attack, but the missiles themselves were not damaged. There was no damage to any of the equipment. The only reason the missiles failed was because of the guidance system had to be, targeting system had to be very accurate, and we had a inertial guidance system, meaning gyroscopes, accelerometers, that sort of thing. And all this object did was to upset this gyroscopic system very briefly. But again, there was no damage. Now, I must say that the same thing happened approximately 6 months earlier at Minot Air Force Base, which is North Dakota, which is a state just below Montana. And again, September 1966, UFO came and shut down 10 missiles. Then we have another witness named David Schindel that has already testified to the government, our government, about that incident. So within the span of 6 months, we lost 30 nuclear missiles to UFOs. I never really considered this a serious security threat because, like I said, there was no overt aggressive damage to either the equipment or personnel. So I didn't consider the fact that these objects, which I'm convinced are not from Earth, they're extraterrestrial, did not intend to do us harm. It was simply a demonstration of their ability to show us how well they understood our technology and how well they understood our nuclear weapon systems. And as a warning against the use of these weapons. And I think that still applies today.
Well, what happened after the events to the witness of the case? Were they, including you, in any way pressure or threat to not report the episode, the event?
Yes, we were ordered not to speak about this again. The next morning, we were flown back to the base and then ordered to go to our squadron commander's office. And there we were met by a member of the Air Force Office of Special Investigation, which is kind of a police force office of the Air Force. And we were ordered to sign these documents, never to speak of these incidents. And so we did. We signed those. I never spoke about them until 1994. So if you want me to continue, in 1994, I was a civilian. I'd left the Air Force in 1971. I was at a college, a University of Washington bookstore, and saw a book called Above Top Secret by Timothy Good. And opened the book up and it turned to page 301. And on that page was a statement that UFOs had shut down nuclear missiles in Montana in both 1966 and 67. So I was very surprised to see that. I thought the Air Force had declassified the incident for some reason. I immediately contacted an organization called MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, and got a hold of an investigator and asked that he help me write a Freedom of Information Act request of the Air Force, where we can ask about certain things officially. And the Air Force wrote back and said this was classified. However, since it's been so long, they were going to declassify it. When they declassified the incident, it was the Echo incident. And at that time, I was not sure where I'd been. Remember, this was almost 30 years later, and my memories weren't very accurate because I hadn't spoken about this for all that time. So I thought I was at Echo flight. and I started speaking publicly about this being a UFO event. I spoke on the radio, television, newspaper reports, etc. And that was 1994. It wasn't until 1996 that I contacted my commander, Colonel Mywald, who had been with me on that evening, and he told me that we were not at Echo flight, we were at Oscar flight. So it was a real surprise to me that these two incidents had happened so close together. So technically at that time and to this day, I'm in violation of that national statement that I signed, the non-disclosure statement, where I should not talk about this. I was in violation, so I decided to continue talking because the incidents were so similar. If they declassified one, the other should be declassified, in my view. So technically, I'm in violation of that, but I have spoken about it for now, again, another 30 years almost, and I will continue to speak out about it.
You are very brave to come up and to speak about your experience, challenge all the types of, you know, threats and medicine, something like that. But so far, as far as I know, only you have come forward to report the case. In your opinion, why didn't the other witnesses do the same? I mean, you had 6 of soldiers in the ground and saw the UFO. Do they, or did some of them came to speak what they saw?
No, I've never spoken with them again. Of course, they were also ordered not to talk about this. And again, this was during the Vietnam War. I assume many of them were sent to Vietnam because they were weapons trained, and maybe some of them didn't come back. As for the others, I can't speak for them. All I can tell you is none of them have ever come forward. I did receive a letter from another airman who knew these gentlemen that had seen my incident or seen the object in my incident, and talked about speaking to them at the barracks when they returned. So I have that letter and of course I've got the testimony of my commander, and also the testimony of Robert Jameson, who brought Oscar flight missiles back up on alert and confirmed that this was a UFO event.
We see in internet a video that shows a missile was set and a UFO attacking him with a beam of light. I know that's a fake film, a fake movie, but do you recall some case that something like that happened? Do you know something that a missile was launched and then a UFO just attacked it?
Yes. I would recommend to your audience if they could go to my website. It's called spiralgalaxy.org. Spiral, SPIRAL, Galaxy, GALAXY.org. And there, if you go to UFOs and Nukes link, you can see that video. It's, of course, it's a CGI video, but this occurred in 1964. Robert Jacobs was the main witness, he was a lieutenant filming a launch of an Atlas missile, including a dummy warhead. A warhead meaning where the bomb would normally be. And after coming back and reviewing the video, you can clearly see some object shooting what looked to be a laser beam at the warhead after the warhead had left the third stage of the or second stage of the Atlas missile. And actually, that warhead was thrown off course as a result of these UFO shooting lasers at this object. This was confirmed by his commander, and he also told us that the CIA observed this video and then took the original. Later, people have told him that they know that this video still exists. So it's possible we could see the actual video someday if we're able to get the CIA to turn it over.
Well, I'm not that hope, you know. It's like in Brazil, we hope to see some videos from the plate operation, but you know, I don't think we're gonna see it. Maybe my kids are gonna see it, but I'm not. I'm pretty sure that I'm not gonna. I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah. But if you go to my website, it's there. This CGI version of what happened, and it's a very good simulation.
Great. I put the link in the bottom while I was speaking, and then I'm gonna put the link in the description of the video. Well, you have already claimed that the US and UK not only keep secret files, but also claim that the nuclear arsenal would be surveilled and even disarmed by group of aliens. Why? Why you mean group? Some kind of specific group of aliens, and why they survive it and disarm it, just to show, oh, we are here, we are more powerful than you. Watch out what they're gonna do.
Again, I don't think this was a way of showing their power and their ability to shut down all our nuclear weapons, which they obviously have that ability. I don't recall ever stating this was a particular group of aliens. I simply don't know that. But this has happened in my book, Unidentified UFO Phenomenon. I point to about 13 cases, incidents through the years where UFOs were involved in incidents involving nuclear weapons. And again, if you go to my website, you'll see my complete 2-hour testimony, which 3 of us gave at Washington, D.C. National Press Club in 2021, October of 2021. You can see I go through those incidents and others where UFOs generally just came by and shine a beam of light and flew off. Again, it's a demonstration, kind of a message to us that nuclear weapons can be the destruction of our civilization if we continue to have them. And we've been close to using them at times, not just at the end of World War II, but during the Korean War, during the Vietnam War. Our commanders requested the use of these nuclear weapons in those wars. And of course, we had a close call in 1962 during the Cuban Missile Crisis, where Russia and the U.S. almost went to nuclear war. So, and we're in a very dangerous situation right now with Russia threatening to use nuclear weapons in the war in Ukraine. And of course, we get constant threats from North Korea as they're developing their ability to launch intercontinental missiles with nuclear weapons.
Well, do you think that if the aliens trying to invade our planet, do you think that we're gonna have some chance? Like, like Independence Day, but we always win in the movies. But do you think that we have chance to win a battle against alien beings that trying to invade the Earth?
Well, that's something I haven't even thought about. I wouldn't even want to speculate. Obviously, they are much more advanced technologically than we are. The testimony of Commander Fravor, who saw the Tic Tac in 2004, he just testified to the U.S. Congress, and he stated that we would have no chance against these objects if they were belligerent enemies, because they could simply outfly us and probably have much more destructive weapons than we can even imagine. But again, I don't think they are hostile because they've been visiting the Earth for many hundreds, maybe thousands, maybe millions of years. And my personal opinion is that they simply are here to try to help us evolve to a higher state of understanding of how to live in peace and cooperation with other extraterrestrial civilizations. I think they would like to see us do that, and are trying to help us in their way.
I cannot agree more with you. Do you believe that there's a huge? You spoke about that in an interview. Do you think that there was a huge worldwide conspiracy to hide the reality of the UFO phenomenon?
Yes, yes, I do. And that probably started in the U.S. in 1947 after the Roswell incident, maybe even before. There's evidence that there was an organized group studying these objects that had been recovered at Roswell. And of course, even going back to 1933, that was brought up by David Grush, another witness during the congressional hearings. And he's probably referring to the crash in Italy in 1933, recovered under Mussolini, and probably shared with Hitler, the Nazis, and they probably worked on trying to re-engineer a spacecraft or a UFO at that time, because Werner von Braun, when he was brought over from at the end of World War II, brought over to the United States, he worked on the Saturn V rocket, which was used to take our astronauts to the moon. He talked about working on a UFO type craft and actually flying a simulated craft. So, yes, we have had these craft and we have back engineered them, I believe.
Captain Salas, with the recent U.S. Public hearings at the Congress in the United States, do you believe that the U.S. government and military will finally open their files, the disclosure that you wish and I wish? Do you think this is going to happen?
Well, we're closer than we've ever been. If we have another more hearings, as has been promised. At the end of the House of Representatives hearing, which happened a month or so ago, it was stated that there would be more hearings and from more witnesses. So I'm hopeful that they will bring witnesses like myself, where we talk about the UFO and nuclear weapons incidents and connections. And once the public in general, and I'm talking about the world population, accepts this as a reality, that yes, we are being visited from civilizations not from Earth with advanced technology, there's going to be wide interest in governments all over the world to at least speak to the citizens about this reality, and we're going to have to somehow accept it and deal with it. So I think we're closer. We're closer to that day. I can't tell you when that'll happen, but I think we're closer to seeing that happen.
Well, in your opinion, what prevents to stop more soldier, more military from coming from the going to the public to report their experience? Do you think they're afraid to be criticized, or to be afraid to be damaged, or gonna be afraid to, I don't know, lost the payment? What do you think? Why? Because I'm pretty sure that a lot of militaries, and I know here in Brazil, there's a lot of pilots that saw something, but wow, I don't want trouble. So I will keep my mouth shut. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a question of how well they would be received by the public. And again, unless and until governments come forward and admit to this reality, which no government has yet made explicit or statements about this being very real. They are extraterrestrial. We are being visited. That statement has not been made by our president or any other leader of any other country. We're getting close. Some of the wording in the latest amendment to our National Defense Act, written by the Senate and approved by the leader of the Senate, admits to the fact that information about this subject has been hidden for decades, number one. And number two, there may be evidence, and again, this is maybe evidence, is the kind of words they're using, that non-human biologics are in the possession of some of our agencies, some of our government agencies. So, like I said, we're getting close to the definitive statement. But until then, a lot of witnesses don't want to risk losing their jobs or being humiliated or being laughed at by people they work with or their families. I can understand that. They would be taking a risk. And of course, a lot of them are still under secrecy oaths. They cannot speak without breaking their secrecy oath, as I have.
Well, we here in Brazil, we have a few news about what happened in the hearings in the United States. We have just the big part. We don't have the details. In your opinion, what's the impact of these hearings on American society? Do you think that, well, now it's time to push the government, now it's time to push the militaries, or no, it's nothing going to happen? Or do you feel that the American society is supporting these hearings? They want the truth. What do you think?
Well, I think the latest polling, which is unreliable, but probably half the people in the United States believe that we are being visited. The problem is the government has not completely admitted to that fact, and also because of that, our news media, the major news cable media like CNN and others, have not reported on even the witness testimony that just occurred, like I say, about a month ago. So again, it's not fully accepted yet by the general American public. And the American public is key because, of course, we're very influential throughout the world, largest military in the world, of course, and so until the United States makes definitive statements about this reality, I think there's going to be at least half the public that will not believe or not accept this reality.
Well, some ufologists are saying that after David Grush's testimony, they believe that Bobby Lazar was correct, was telling the truth back in 1989. Do you think that Bob Lazar was telling the truth after, the David Grush, that the American, the U.S. government has a secret program to re-engineer of the UFO that crashed on Earth, and Bob Lazar said that 30 years ago? What do you think?
I certainly agree that we do have a secret program and have had, like I said, since 1947. We've recovered craft and bodies of these extraterrestrial beings, and they've been studied for many, many decades. So I think it's what Bob Lazar has stated in that respect is most likely true. I have my own reasons because I won't go into them now, but I have my own reasons for being convinced that we have tried to re-engineer recovered craft and actually built similar objects that could do some of the things, but not all the things that these objects can do. The problem with Lazar was he was not able to bring forth evidence of what he was saying, and I'm sure that's probably the reason he had difficulty convincing a lot of people. But the essentials of what he said, underground bases, yes. Recovered craft, yes. Beings from extraterrestrial civilizations, yes. I'm convinced of all those things.
Well, let's talk about now good news. You published your third book in November. I pre-ordered already,
Thank you.
UAPs and nuclear puzzle, visitation, national security, and the need for transparency. Tell us, because I have the other two books, and now I'm going to have the third. Tell us about your book. Why are you bringing new in this third book?
Yeah, I wanted to bring everybody up to date. That book that you have read was written in 2011 and republished in 2013. So 10 years have gone by. And I have been found correct that there is an international organization That's essentially been admitted to by many people that there is an international organization, which I call a cabal, which is working hard to maintain this secrecy in various ways. So I go into more detail about the cabal. I go into more detail about what our government is doing to try to disclose what they can to the public. I testified to ARROW, which is the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, ARROW, which is supposed to be the focal point or office that is studying this for the government of the U.S. And so I go into my presentation there and what they're trying to do, and they're not being very successful at it. So just about every chapter, I have added additional information, and we've got a new appendix. We've got a new foreword by Leslie Keene, in addition to Stanton Friedman, both good friends. And so we'll have to see what you think of what I've added, but I've tried to bring everybody up to date to what I know about is going on.
Well, I hope to get November as soon as possible. Not so soon because in February I'm gonna be older. So let's wait. Let's wait. Let's wait. Captain, you were in Brazilian Senate talking about UFOs in a historical event. What was your impression about it?
Yes, I was very impressed. The fact that the senator was able to bring all these witnesses, not only myself and Gary Hazeltine from the UK, but many witnesses from Brazil, and speak openly, allow them to speak openly in the Senate of Brazil. This was a major moment, I think, worldwide. I think it was the first time such a thing has happened in any government body. So I was honored to be a part of that, and I thought everybody did a wonderful job. And the Senator Jarrao, I think his name is Jarrao, if I'm not mistaken, was very gracious, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was a great experience. And I think it provides other countries kind of a means to show that they can have this kind of testimony and be honest with about this subject. So I expect other countries to start the process of getting witnesses to come forward.
I hope too. I hope too. So finally, to finish our interview that could take hours and hours ahead, in your opinion, what's the purpose of extraterrestrial in our planet?
What's the purpose?
Yes.
Well, that's going to be my next book, Thiago. I'm starting to write a book called The Agenda, Their Agenda. Let's see, what can I say? I did talk about the possibility, but it's speculation, that they are really here to try to help us evolve, and we need to be evolved. Obviously, we're fighting amongst ourselves. We're very close to nuclear war. We are destroying the planet. They can help if we can show them that we are willing to work together. So the problem with our civilization is we have difficulty working together in unison to resolve some of these major problems. And now with global warming, we're going to have additional problems such as food insecurity, water insecurity, mass migrations because of the global warming situation. We need to start working together quickly. We don't have time any longer to keep fighting amongst ourselves and not helping each other. So I think that's one of their objectives. But on the other hand, they are also involved in abducting people and probably creating hybrid between themselves and us. What the purpose of that is, I don't know. I can only speculate like anybody else what it might be, but they are doing that. There's plenty of evidence throughout the world, people being taken and hybrids being produced. So, but once we realize as a civilization that this is a reality, then we can all work together to try to resolve the questions as to why they're here, how they can help us in many ways, and how we can better be prepared to greet them and meet them and work together with them in peace. Again, we are on the verge of establishing bases on the moon again, with Russia just launched another moon mission. I think it was yesterday, and of course China will probably do the same, and other countries will have missions in space and try to do explorations. But if we continue to do that while we're still have these horrific weapons of war, we're going to have problems. So interesting times ahead for your children and grandchildren.
Yeah, we start a new space run. So Captain Salas, thank you very much for your time. There's a very good information that you gave to us, and to me also opportunity to talk about your new book, the third book. And we know now that you're going to write in a fourth book, so I have to get more money. I have to work more to buy it, because it's not cheap to send from USA to Brazil. It's not cheap, you know. But thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for all your kindness with me.
It's been my pleasure, THIAGO. Like I said, I have a warm heart for the people of Brazil and all of South America. Really, I've been to many countries in South America, and I've heard many stories that aren't well known here in the United States. But I'll try to keep discussing those also. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Captain. Thank you very much. É isso, pessoal. Mais uma entrevista inédita exclusiva que vocês só encontram aqui no canal Desvendando Mistérios, e com o capitão Robert Salas, que falou informações importantes que muitos de vocês têm certeza que não sabiam. E esse terceiro livro dele, já tem outros dois, são fantásticos. Eu recomendo para vocês os dois primeiros. O último eu ainda não conheço. No mais, é isso. Espero que tenham gostado. Não se esqueçam de se inscrever no canal, também marcar o sininho para sempre que tiver um vídeo novo você ser avisado. E por último, também não deixem de comentar, por último, e dê um like também em todos os vídeos do canal, e também comentem todos os vídeos, além de compartilhar o canal. Um abraço para todos e até a próxima.